How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone, there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone, this is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone, there's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone, this is the final
Marky got with Sharon, Sharon got Sharia. She was sharing Sharon's outlook on the topic of disease. Mikey had a facial scar and Bobby was a racist. They were all in love with dying, they were doing it in Texas. Tommy played piano like a kid out in the rain, and then he lost his leg in Dallas. He was dancing with the train. They were all in love with dying, they were drinking from a fountain that was pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain.
I don't mind the sun sometimes, the images it shows. I can taste you on my lips and smell you in my clothes.
What up, guys? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the show. My channel is so shadow banned. It's not even funny. If you are watching this video, can you just please mount the like button? No complaining, no whining, no excuses. Just like the video, because this is going on a couple of weeks now where there has been a dramatic drop off for no reason on the viewers that join the stream, on all the metrics across the board. Not that it actually really makes a difference monetarily, because you guys fund me from super chats and subscriptions and merchandise sales and other things. So it's not like I'm making a ton of money on these videos. So it's not like, it's kind of like I do have the attitude of like, whoever shows up. This is my research stream. People can join or not. I don't really care. But like, the point is that YouTube is fucking with me. Again, this happens all the time. I would bet if I were to survey people, they would say, I didn't even get a notification. I had no idea you were live. And then I would say, you've joined my 5 p.m. stream every day for like 2 years. You know I go live at 5 p.m. And they go, oh, I just didn't get a notification. And it's because YouTube doesn't send them out. So if people could please mount the like button. Come on, let's get those likes up. We're going to be doing some protest coverage today. Because it's almost like I predicted this yesterday. My computer needs to be restarted too. Like, everything is going wrong. Everything is going wrong already today. Everything is going to go wrong, and the stream is going to be horrible because everything's going to go wrong. Anyway, it's almost like I predicted this yesterday. It's almost like I actually predicted it the day before yesterday, if we're being honest about it, because as soon as I heard that the Trump administration was making it official policy to deport students for criticizing Israel, I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. Because the thing of it is, the left, from the moment Trump got elected, not just after he got inaugurated, but the left from the moment that he got elected, was planning on doing mass protests and direct action and disruption around Trump's deportations. Now, Trump's mass deportations haven't happened. They haven't materialized. There have been no mass deportations. Trump is actually deporting less people than Biden did on a daily basis, which should, comfort everyone that that we were lied to again by everyone. But, I mean, one could argue that maybe one of the reasons that Trump hasn't been doing mass deportations at all is the amount of pushback that he's getting from the left in terms of they're targeting ICE facilities, they're protesting this stuff all the time, all over the country. I don't know what people are watching when I hear them say, the left isn't even fighting back against Trump. Oh, really? Oh, really? They're not? Because I can find protest video from all over the country of larger protests than you might think, except that those protests are not shown on conservative media, and so the right doesn't have any idea that any of this stuff is happening, per usual. So there was a lot of mobilization around the deportation stuff. It's been an active, ongoing campaign. They protest literally all the time. And now the Trump campaign has served them up a George Floyd-style martyr on a silver platter. Now listen, I'm not opposed to defunding universities, obviously and clearly. I'm also not opposed to deporting far-left radical revolutionary socialists, obviously and clearly. However, the way that the Trump administration is doing this is not going to fix problems. It's going to cause a massive, 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 massive shitstorm and backlash for no good reason, exactly like what happened when George Floyd died in 2020. And I predicted this from the moment I heard about this. So this started the other day, where the Trump administration targeted this student specifically. I think his name is Mahmoud Khalil. I'm going to pronounce this horribly. He is a graduate student at Columbia, was here on a student visa. He also is married to an American. So in addition to having a student visa, he also has a legal green card, okay? He was involved in some of the Columbia protests. He's been involved with the Columbia protests for a long time. There's video of this guy going back. He was involved in the encampments last year and all this stuff. To the best of my research, and we're going to watch what they have declared as evidence for him committing so-called crimes. This guy hasn't done any property damage. This guy hasn't committed any acts of violence. This guy has walked around chanting some chants and talking to the media about what the protests are about, but he hasn't actually done anything that would be considered violent or illegal or any of these things. And yet now the Trump administration has made him specifically enemy number one in terms of deporting foreign-born students who are critical of Israel. Now, I really want everyone to think about this. Again, he's a far left radical revolutionary, okay? We are not on his team politically. We are not on his side. He's not being deported for being a far left radical revolutionary, though. He's being deported for being critical of a foreign government. He attended a school that is the most woke university in the country, produces the most far-left graduates by far. It is not even close. Columbia is the epicenter for all of this. The Trump administration has canceled $400 million in grants to Columbia because of their lack of, taking care of, anti-Semitism or whatever. I'm not opposed to defunding universities. I'm not opposed to defunding leftist universities. But the pretense on which the Trump is doing this is not correct. It's just not. And I want everyone to think, would a student get deported for being critical of China? Would a student get deported for being critical of Ukraine? Would a student get deported for being critical of Russia? Would a student get deported for being critical of any country's government in the world except for Israel? So I said yesterday, I posted this on the Substack, I was like, the left is celebrating this. You've just created another George Floyd, you morons, for no good reason other than Trump is doing the dirty work of Israel. And I'm going to prove that. I've got a couple things I want us to look at. The first we have from Glenn Greenwald, posted this today. He retweeted, and we're going to look at this thread of evidence. So the reason the Trump campaign said that they just had to deport this student, they just had to deport him. He is a Hamas supporter. He is a terrorist. He is someone we cannot have in this country. Okay, let's look at their evidence real quickly. Let's just look at the evidence that they have. Why is my video not working? Let's just watch this clip reel. This is the evidence that this student is just too much of a terrorist to be in this country. Let's watch.
Are you guys going to listen to the university and leave the encampment here?
Of course not. The university is the one who should listen to us. They should listen to their student body who are demanding to end their investment in the war that's happening in Palestine. Our demands are clear. Our demands are regarding the investment from the Israeli occupation, the companies that are profiting and contributing to the genocide of our people. Again, the university, once again, they are so stubborn in listening to their students. They're treating this matter as a disciplinary matter. They're not treating this as an anti-war movement that actually gathered thousands of students here. That actually sparked thousands of students across the United States.
How far are you all willing to go here on campus?
We're going to go as far as we need to pressure the university to pressure the university to divest from the occupation.
Divest.
This is up to the group, to the leadership of the group, to decide how far they will go. But now it's clear that the students will remain here. They will stay here until they achieve their demands.
So that is the hardened evidence, according to the left. When you see people gnashing their teeth and rendering their garments over the arrest and potential deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, one of the lead Hamas acolytes at Columbia University, show them this thread of his greatest hits. Oh, there's more? Hang on, there's more. Hang on, we have to do our due diligence. We have to watch all of them. He was standing around.
Can you hear?
Okay, so that's a 10-second clip of him standing around and shouting into a microphone and trying to be reasonable. Next. Oh, look, he's standing around. He's not doing anything. Next. This is a video. Load video.
انتهت المفاوضات. محمود لو تحدثنا إلى أين انتهت المفاوضات؟
قد قمنا بالمفاوضات منذ الليلة الماضية لأكثر من 11 ساعة مع إدارة الجامعة للحصول على مطالبنا من حيث قطع العلاقات الاقتصادية والأكاديمية مع جامعات دولة الاحتلال والشركات التي تساهم في ذبح شعبنا الفلسطيني. الجامعة متعنتة عن ذكر أي شيء يخص أو أي شيء يضر بسمعة إسرائيل الدولية، ولكننا مصرين على أن هذا المطلب هو مطلب أساسي لهذه الجماهير التي الموجودة هنا، ولن نتخلى عن هذا المطلب، سواء قاموا بتهديدنا بجلب الأمن الوطني أو الشرطة، وسوف نبقى موجودين حتى الحصول على هذه المطالب. ولكن حاليا نحن نركز على المفاوضات، على أطر لتحديد ما هو ممكن الحصول عليه في الإطار الزمني القريب وعلى المدى البعيد. نعمل مع الجامعة على تحديد هذه الأطر، ولكن نصر على أن يكون هنالك قطع للعلاقات الاقتصادية والأكاديمية لإسرائيل. بالنهاية هذا الاعتصام هو لنصرة أهلنا في غزة، لنصرة أهلنا في فلسطين، وسوف نبقى موجودين حتى الحصول على جميع هذه المطالب، سواء كانت عن طريق هذه المفاوضات أو سواء عن طريق الضغط بشكل أكبر وأكبر على هذه الجامعة من أجل إعطائنا أكثر طلب.
So in all the videos we've seen so far, what they're demanding is divestment. Okay, let's see what they say in this one.
President Minouche Shafik claimed today in her email to all the student body that they kept open channels and discussions with the students through different channels. I can confirm as the only negotiator that the university were actually dictating things to students. They've never offered any negotiation. The moment we sent them our demands and the coalition demands, 5 minutes after they called and said nothing will be negotiating upon. And then they intimidated and threatened students since the morning of yesterday. Every 3 hours they would give different information in an attempt to threaten the students that they can disperse. And that last deadline that they give students was 9 p.m. And if any student stays after 9 p.m., they would go through interim suspension, which is against all the university guidelines and policies. Yet the university, once again, when it comes to pro-Palestine movement on campus, they would create new policies just for the sake of going after the students. We've tried to come to a middle ground with the administration to protect the safety of the students, to prevent the NYPD from coming into campus, yet the university refused to do that. And yet again, the president and her team, they've decided to punish the students, not to work with them. Unfortunately, we couldn't invite you to the university, to our space, to talk and to hold this press conference because the university wouldn't allow any press to come inside. Yet now, as we can see, all the public safety, we also have the Colombia chief operating officer who came here just to check, because Colombia, if there's one thing they care about their donors and the media image that they're trying to maintain.
So that kind of seemed to be, he's not a radical. Well, I mean, he is in some ways, but he's not a terrorist. So now here's their smoking gun.
The university,
he is leading in Columbia University Apartheid Divest, which is Columbia University Apartheid Divest. Their demands are that Columbia University stop spending money in Israel, divest from Israel, don't have college campuses in Israel. That's what their demands are, okay? Columbia severely restricted access to campus after demonstrators seized an academic building and blocked them. The school also suspended graduate student Mahmoud Khalil, lead negotiator for Columbia University Apartheid Divest, in talks with the administration that failed to resolve the crisis, so he got suspended, although not arrested. And then their big smoking gun seems to be that he was in the same room as inflammatory propaganda, which I would bet all the money in my bank account that if we actually read this brochure, what this is going to be about is the military-industrial complex that is supporting Israel. So that is their big smoking gun, apparently, that this guy is just a hardened terrorist, and he needs to be deported. Now, Glenn Greenwald tweeted this earlier today, and he said, wow, this changes everything. An incriminating dossier on the Columbia-age grad student Trump ordered deported. In one, he detonates a suicide vest and blows up innocents. No, he's actually just calmly standing around and giving interviews. That's it. Now, you don't have to agree with him. You don't have to be on his side. Quite frankly, I am really pissed off that the Trump administration is making me take this guy's side because he's a far left radical socialist and I don't want him here and I don't want him making decisions about things, and because that's who's running the protests. They are far left radical revolutionaries. But I have to take his side because I am actually a free speech absolutist, and I believe in the United States of America, we should absolutely be able to criticize Israel, and I don't care if you are a foreign-born student. What kind of precedent does it set to say if you're going to come and study in America, you cannot be critical of a foreign power, otherwise you're going to piss off the government and they're going to leave, and they're going to deport you for it. What message does that send? So then Glenn Greenwald retweeted himself, and he says, the mass deportations MAGA was promised haven't been happening, so they're flamboyantly deporting legal green card holders instead for the supreme crime of activism against Israel. We heard about murderers, child rapists, cat and dog eaters, the worst. Look who ICE got today, and this is a clip from an article. This is someone who seeks mediated resolutions through speech and dialogue. This is not someone who engages in violence or gets people riled up to do dangerous things. So it's really disturbing to see this kind of misrepresentation of him. Mr. Khalil is of Palestinian heritage and graduated in December from Columbia with a master's degree from the School of International and Public Affairs, according to his LinkedIn profile. He is married to an American citizen who is 8 months pregnant, which means he has a legal green card and he is allowed to be here. And whether or not you like that, it doesn't actually matter. He has a legal green card that the Trump administration is just canceling or trying to cancel. A court has now stopped them from doing this. A court issued an injunction yesterday, I think. But they're trying to cancel his legal green card because he was critical of Israel. And that's not even the only thing. There was an article that got released in which the Trump administration isn't even accusing him of breaking the law. I really want people to think about this. This is a clip from an article. Indeed, a White House official told the Free Press that the basis for targeting Khalil is being used as a blueprint for investigations against other students. Khalil is a, quote, threat to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States, unquote, said the official, noting that this calculation was the driving force behind the arrest. Quote, the allegation here is not that he was breaking the law. They are explicitly saying this kid is not breaking the law. Explicitly. So that's nice. And I just want to remind people and show people some of the stuff we're going to watch today. There were literally Jews protesting what the Trump is doing at Columbia today. So any talk of this being, I don't know why I'm frozen. Everything is breaking. There's no reason for me to be frozen right now, StreamYard. Why aren't you working? I don't even know if people can hear me. My face is frozen in a funny way. Why am I frozen? There's no reason for this. Oh, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, you guys could hear me. Okay, so now that I'm back, anyone saying anything about anti-Semitism, Jew haters, Hamas supporters, there's literally Jewish groups protesting this. And this is not the only one. This is not the only one. And this hasn't been the only one the entire time. In fact, I'm old enough to remember, and I want to thank Burning Orchards for putting this in my feed again today. I'm old enough to remember last year from the campus encampments, because we actually watched live footage from the campus encampments. We didn't watch conservative bullshit coverage of this. We just watched live footage from the encampments. I'm old enough to remember last year where the encampments literally held a Passover Seder on campus during the encampments with socialist Jack Halberstam, of course. So anyone, and I mean anyone, who's saying that this is about Jew hate or anti-Semitism is lying. And that currently includes the entire Trump administration. And that should give everyone pause. Because if they are willing to deport legal green card holders because they are critical of Israel, what does that tell you about the direction that this is going in? What else do I have? Oh, we just watched that thread. We don't need that. But I found this to be really interesting. I found this to be really, 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 really interesting. Because a whole bunch of conservatives have been posting what appears to be a dossier on this guy, where they all of a sudden have all these nicely packaged clips of this person. We've watched some of them already. Charlie Kirk posted this out earlier today. They all of a sudden seem to know everything about this person and all their protest activities. Why is that, do you think? Because of all people, we know that the right doesn't actually pay attention to the left. They don't actually watch them. They don't actually pay attention to them. So where did all of a sudden they get all this information about this specific student protester who has been on the front lines of the pro-Palestine protests since last year? Where did they get this information? They got it from Canary Mission. So Canary Mission posted this video, and I'm sure has been reaching out, making sure people know who this person is. And I want, as we watch this clip, I want people in the chat to tell me, do you guys remember Canary Mission? Does that name sound familiar to you? Canary Mission? I'm going to tell you where it's from after we watch this clip, but chat in, let me know.
Breaking news, immigration agents arresting a Palestinian activist at Columbia University.
Now this comes as the Trump administration is threatening to revoke green cards and visas of those who support Hamas.
After months of reporting on Columbia University's pro-terror ecosystem, Canary Mission deepened its research, uncovering 6 foreign nationals who could qualify under President Trump's executive order called Protecting the United States from Foreign Terrorists and Other National Security and Public Safety Threats. Number 1, Mahmoud Khalil. Khalil is an international graduate student born and raised in Syria. In 2023, he interned at UNRWA, the UN organization defunded by the US government for its affiliation with Hamas. During the encampment, Khalil acted as lead negotiator for the pro-terror student group Columbia University Apartheid Divest. On March 9th, 2025, Khalil was arrested by ICE.
A spokesperson with the Department of Homeland Security released a statement. They claim he, quote, led activities aligned to Hamas, a designated terrorist organization.
Number 2, Mohsen Madawi. Student activist Mohsen Madawi is from...
So they've got a bunch of other dossiers as well. I just wanted you to see the first one because that's what's relevant. Canary Mission. It seems as though many of you do not remember Canary Mission. Which, you know, you guys, I swear, you guys, I swear. Let me ask you this. Do you guys remember a couple months ago, maybe? Maybe it wasn't a couple months ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was sometime recently. We watched a documentary from Veriso Books. Where is it? Is it in there live? Here it is. Couple months ago, we watched a documentary from Veriso Books, which is a far-left book publisher. And it's called The Israel Lobby in Academia. And this was a documentary that I think was filmed, I want to say around 2016-ish, something like that. But it was filmed by Al Jazeera, and then it mysteriously got censored and wasn't allowed to be aired. And then they started distributing it in places like this through different book publishers. We saw it on the YouTube channel of Verso Books. I want to play you guys a clip from that documentary just to maybe jog your recollection of what Canary Mission is.
Could you send me some of these websites? I'd be very curious just to see what they look like.
I couldn't.
You couldn't, okay.
But, you know, Canary Mission is a good example. Canary Mission is highly, highly effective to the extent that we monitor the students for justice in Palestine and their allies.
A few years later, these individuals are applying for jobs within your company.
Canary Mission's promotional video threatens to pass these smears onto prospective employers.
Ensure that today's radicals are not tomorrow's employees.
Somebody did contact my employer and ask for me to be fired based on my pro-Palestine activism. They said that, you know, if they continued to employ me, that their values are anti-Semitic. It can be really scary at first. I was mostly harassed via Twitter. They were tweeting me like every 2 or 3 days. They take screenshots, even way back to my Facebook pictures that don't even look like me anymore, just digging and digging through my online presence.
They're terrified of Canary Mission, and it's about time.
We had always been afraid of ending up on there. It was like very personal. They see us as such a threat that they have to kind of twist and turn and delve into our personal lives. As if they were trying to scare us into stopping our work. Their Twitter campaign is relentless.
Every picture that I post on Facebook, it goes onto one of their websites with every tweet that I put in. Every hashtag I post on Instagram, it goes into one of their files.
As he left his meeting at the ICC, Tony reflected on the way Jacob Boehm had reacted to his questions about Canary Mission.
We do it securely and anonymously, and that's the key.
It sounds very similar to like a Canary Mission and that kind of thing. Is that, yeah. Are you guys like in touch with them at all, or is there any kind of, no?
No, Canary Mission is totally anonymous.
Yes. Yeah,
it's hard to figure out who's behind it. Canary Mission is highly, highly effective to the extent that we monitor the students for justice in Palestine and their allies. We're doing it back. I mean, not we, but this some anonymous group.
We don't know who's behind it. I would ask where they get their money from, because ultimately that tells you where the control is.
Our undercover reporter, Tony, is having a coffee with Eric, his boss at the Israel Project.
Well, spoiler alert, they do reveal the financier of Canary Mission later on in this documentary. And oh my God, it's connected to Israel. Oh my God, I know we're all shocked at that. And so I just wanted to remind people that Canary Mission apparently is alive and well. And Canary Mission are the ones that are putting together the dossiers on these student activists that are now being targeted by the Trump administration for deportation for being part of the divest movement. And I want to really just like make sure people understand this. The pro-Palestine, the Free Palestine movement has been going on for a long ass time. It's been going on for decades. It was going on way, 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 way before October 7th. All of these student groups that you see protesting on college campuses, their demands are that universities boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. That means pull their money out of Israel, stop sending resources to Israel, stop sending students to Israel. Those are what their demands are. Those are what their demands have been for a long time, before October 7th. This documentary was produced like somewhere around about 2015, 2016. It was way before October 7th. And they were doing exactly the same thing then, pre-October 7th, as they were doing today, which is calling everyone who dares question the state of Israel an anti-Semite, targeting these students that are being part of these pro-Palestine protests. It's literally the same playbook with the same company doing it. And now the Trump administration is taking their stuff and they're directly targeting the students that Canary Mission is telling them to target. And this all fucking comes from Israel. This all comes from Israel. And so again, I'm not on the side of the student protesters because I'm not a far left radical revolutionary socialist. I don't personally care if universities get defunded because I think universities suck and they should be defunded and we shouldn't be paying for that shit. However, there are broader implications at play here, and there is a bigger picture why this is all happening. And this is all about to blow up in everyone's face, and it was easy to see coming a mile and a half away. And not only is the Trump administration handing the left a martyr on a silver platter, and if it's not him, it will be someone else, because they don't actually care about him individually. They care about him as a symbol of the larger revolution, and if he somehow gets out of this, it will be someone else, and then it'll be someone else after that. The Trump administration has made it very clear they have a list of student activists, probably that they got from Canary Mission. And they're doing this on behalf of a foreign government. So they are sending us into another George Floyd summer of love on behalf of Israel by targeting free speech, and that doesn't sit well with me. I don't have to agree with people protesting to defend their right to protest, and I'm old enough to remember when the right was like, we're the party of civil liberties and free speech, and you don't have to worry about being censored over here. Well, apparently you do. Apparently you do. So we're going to spend some time today going through some protest stuff that's been happening on the last couple days. I've got a whole bunch of clips pulled up. We're going to watch the faculty speeches from yesterday at Columbia because the faculty are, of course, speaking out against this. Let me show you guys what we have. Hang on. So I've got the faculty speeches at Columbia, and this is live. This was just streamed by Reuters, so it was this is from yesterday, but it's relatively recent. We've got a couple clips from, this is a Jewish funded kind of like protest on the ground coverage, but like they also have live videos. So this is definitely, these are Zionists. So they're doing this because they have a political perspective, but they also have live videos from the ground. And I want to just watch a couple clips from them, see what's going on at Columbia today. We might even do that first because those are just really short clips. Let's see. That's not anything you guys need to worry about. We have, this is a live stream from protests in New York, literally earlier today. And I kind of want to watch this. This was on Democracy Now!, I think, yesterday. This is kind of the left's coverage of what's going on with this, because it's always valuable for us to watch. I mean, the Democracy Now! Is like, they're not fully socialist, but they're pretty far left. And so I kind of want to see their coverage of it. And so we're just going to skip around and we're going to watch some stuff. And I want to see what's going on. And yeah, I'm not happy about it, and I don't think anyone should be happy about it. This sucks. So we're gonna get into that today. Guys, if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, head over to my main Substack. That is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership of $8 a month. They're $80 a year. We have membership perks, including a supporter Zoom every Monday at 7 p.m. We do multiple movie nights a week. We did movie night last night with Brave New World that I just spaced and I forgot to show up to, and I was really mad about that. But Mac B watched the first half of the Brave New World miniseries last night. I'm gonna have to watch it on my own and catch up because I definitely want to go to part 2 next week. We have Jennifer doing movie nights every single Sunday. You can find your supporter perks in the digest email that goes out every single week. And I appreciate the support. I cannot do this without your guys' help. And I might have some undercover stuff planned coming up. So you definitely want to be signed up. You definitely want to be supportive of it. I'm just saying, I'll give you a little preview, but I might have some undercover stuff coming up. Also, if you want to fund my books, why isn't that loading? Everything's broken today. If you want to check out my latest books, which are, of course, I have a couple books out right now because I am cranking on the books. We have A Brief History of Racism that's out now. We have Debunking the Communist Manifesto, which is going to come out on Friday. And I'm currently working on a new book called Be Gay, Do Crime, The True Story of the Mary Nardini Gang. This is about the rise of militant queer activism in the Midwest using all their primary source documents, building an archive of those documents. This is on a separate Substack that you can sign up for and get access to my books literally as I'm writing them, so you get draft chapters as soon as they're written. There are 3 chapters currently of the Mary Nardini Gang book up. You can also, if you are a member of the Red Menace Collective, you can download your free digital copy of Debunking the Communist Manifesto or A Brief History of Racism, and that is all available on the Red Menace Collective Substack. That is redmenacecollective.substack.com. And again, if you appreciate the work I do, this is a premium Substack. It is separate from my main Substack, but you can sign up for $10 a month, $100 a year, get access to all the premium content over there, and you guys make it possible for me to do this stuff, so I really do appreciate it. All right, let's dig in and let's watch some of these clips if they'll load. Oh my god, the internet is so slow today. Why is the internet so slow today? This is like a crazy level of slow. I bet my computer's trying to install an update or something and I just don't know about it. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of clips here from yesterday and today. Let's just watch these clips kind of in order from today. I was trying to find a live protest feed from Colombia and I couldn't find one, so we'll just have to make do with what we have. And we'll give these a minute to load, and hopefully by the time one loads, the rest will load. Okay. Hang on. Look at this sign! Anti-Israel is not anti-Semitism. Look at the sign, like, right off the bat. Look at the sign. And this, guys, is why we watch live protest coverage, because nefarious actors are going to try to spin this and make it seem like something it isn't. All right, let's listen.
Free Mahmoud Khalil now! 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 Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Look at that! These are Orthodox Jews. You're telling me this is anti-Semitism and Jew hate? Those are Orthodox Jews.
Occupation no more. Yes, he is.
Just like any of us would be.
Just like any of us would be.
Before his abduction.
Before his abduction.
Mahmoud was afraid.
Mahmoud was afraid.
Zionist students
So that's the first clip we got. Let's pull up the next one. Okay, so this is all from today. This was taken at Columbia University. Probably none of them, because these are far left revolutionary socialists. So for people who are new, socialists and liberals are not the same thing. The worst mistake that you can make on my channel is declaring that we're watching liberals right now. We are not watching liberals. We are watching socialists. They are not the same in any way. And these students would tell you that, by the way. Socialists spend more time ragging on liberals than they do on conservatives, and it's not even close.
You guys don't know it, it's here.
Where you go, I will go, my friends. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, my friends. Where you go, I will go. Never let this slide! We will never let this slide! Columbia, you can't hide! Columbia, you can't hide! We want help! We want justice, you say help!
Students against ICE.
Off our campus now!
ICE off our campus now!
We want justice, you say help!
We want justice! Deportation has got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! Deportation has got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! Deportation has got to go, hey, hey! Ho, ho! Deportation has got to go! No KKK, no fascist USA! No Trump! No KKK, no fascist USA! No Trump! No KKK, no fascist USA! No Trump! Students are under attack!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When students are under attack!
When students are under attack!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When immigrants are under attack!
When immigrants are under attack!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Say it loud, say it clear!
Say it loud, say it clear!
We don't want ICE here!
We don't want ICE here!
Immigrants are welcome here! Immigrants are welcome here!
We will never let this slide!
Columbia, you can't hide!
Columbia, you can't hide!
We will never let this slide!
We will never let this slide!
Trina Armstrong, you can't hide!
Trina Armstrong, you can't hide!
We will never...
They were just chanting down, down with deportation, up, up with liberation.
On your side!
Trina Armstrong, what do you say?
Trina Armstrong, what do you say?
How many boots did you make today?
How many boots did you make today?
Katrina Armstrong, what do you say?
Trina Armstrong, what do you say?
How many boots did you make today?
How many boots did you make today?
That's a good one.
Say it once, say it twice.
We will not put up with ICE.
We will not put up with ICE. Borders, no nations. Stop the deportation. No borders, no nations. Stop the deportation. No borders, no...
No borders, no nations. Stop the deportations. This is how we know these are far left socialists. Socialists do not believe in borders. They don't believe in borders around countries, borders around states, borders around cities, borders around counties, borders around towns, borders around your house and your private property. They don't believe in any borders. And they want completely open borders. They want a completely globalized socialist society. And that's how you know these are far left radical revolutionaries and not liberals, because liberals still want borders.
Nation, stop the deportation. No borders.
Hey, thanks.
You detain our students too.
Appreciate it.
ICE, ICE, we know you.
I think the speaker just said something like, as Jewish students, you won't do this in our name. Because it's not about anti-Semitism. It never was.
You can't hide. We will never let this slide. We will never let this slide. Say it loud, say it clear. Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Ho ho! Katrina Armstrong has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Katrina Armstrong has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Katrina Armstrong has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Katrina Armstrong has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Katrina Armstrong has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho!
All right. Well, let's go. Let's keep going. We'll watch our next video. This is okay, this is NYU. I didn't know they were even at NYU today, but that's good. Because again, this is going on all over New York City. Katrina Armstrong is the current interim president of Columbia, I think. So this is not just at Columbia. This is all over the city. This is going to be all over the country. This is going to be and you know what? The Trump administration has horrible timing with this bullshit. You want to know why? The weather is beautiful. The weather in New Hampshire has been literally beautiful the last couple days. It is like a nice spring day. The snow is melting. New York is farther south. There's no snow. It's warm out. This is the worst possible timing they could have ever chosen, which is why, of course, they did it, because they have no sense of timing or no perspective or any of these things, because they're handing students that are all riled up to protest, that are just getting out of being cooped up for the winter, they're handing them an invitation to create chaos. Did I set up the sound on that? Yes.
Press to the back! Press to the back!
No, no, no.
Believe that we will.
No, 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 no. The Weather Underground were terrorists that were planting bombs. These are students and faculty members that are standing on a lawn chanting. These are not the same thing. When we say they're the same thing, we look ridiculous. So we don't say they're the same thing, because planting bombs is slightly different than chanting on a college campus.
I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win! I believe that we will win!
But we are not letting up. We are going to continue to fight until Mahmoud is free! And by resistance, we don't mean wearing pink shirts and holding up silly little signs.
That's a jab at Code Pink.
We mean action!
That is a jab at Code Pink if I ever heard one.
We mean taking to the streets.
Direct
mobilizing
action.
In our thousands,
Oh.
no, in our millions,
Oh.
and dealing blow after blow to our enemies.
Mobilizing in the streets in the millions. Yeah. Yep. Well done, Trump administration. Hope sucking Israel's dick was worth it.
Occupation, no more. 5, 6, 7, 8.
You guys seen a lot of Jew hate at these protests? A lot of anti-Semitism?
Palestine. In our lifetime.
How many kids did you kill today? Israel.
Millions and millions of people sent the letter demanding Mahmoud's freedom.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you guys think this millions thing is out of scope, there were, I think the last time I saw, 1.6 million people who signed a petition protesting this guy's deportation. So when they say millions in this case, they actually do mean millions. Oh, CUNY. CUNY was the site of one of the major protests last year.
Over 100,000 jobs.
I think because the Muslim thing is like national, big national.
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now!
Free Mahmoud Khalil now! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Holocaust is not an excuse to commit one, sir. A Holocaust is not an excuse to commit one.
Wow.
It's not. It's not. It's not okay. It's not okay to commit a genocide and then censor Americans like me from saying that my First Amendment right is protected.
True.
Are we allowed to talk about the president in the United States? Are we allowed to burn the American flag in the United States? Yes.
Yeah, we are.
But are we allowed to talk about Israel? Are people losing their job for talking about the president?
Call up your father, Trump.
People aren't losing their job for talking about the president. People aren't losing their job for talking about Christianity or talking about Islam. But people sure enough lose their First Amendment rights when it comes to that.
Wow. True.
We have a right as U.S. citizens to exercise our First Amendment right. Unrestricted. Unrestricted. One of the greatest fundamental concepts of the United States of America is the right to freedom of speech and assembly, of which this is being attacked. You have the right of freedom of speech if you say what we want to hear. You have the right to assembly if you're gathering for a purpose we allow. That is a fundamental problem. That is not the America that I know. That is not the America that we love. That is not the America we appreciate. That is not it. We fought tooth and nail for civil rights for all people. We fought for a constitution to be the framework of government for all people, regardless of your religious creed, sexual orientation, or other. But that isn't what's happening here today, is it? Is it? So no, pardon my French when I say I don't care. I want American dollars to stay in America. I want U.S. tax dollars in America. I want our education system to be funded here in America. I want people to understand a difference of opinion is okay here in America. That's what I want. I am a U.S. citizen and I want to put America first. And I'm asking everyone here, is your allegiance to America, the Constitution, or to an ally? Are we agents of an ally, or is our ally supposed to be agents of us? That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
Who are we? Who are we? I'm an American. My loyalty is to the USA first and foremost, not to any ally. You know why? Did we not sponsor Al-Qaeda at one point? Did we not sponsor the wrong people at one point? Yes, we did. So no, our allegiance should not be to an ally, because friends today could be foes tomorrow. That's the lesson history's taught us.
No, he was a socialist, 100%. But he was right, too. Absolutely correct. It's a Black Panther. Black Panthers are leftists. Or he had this shirt on, anyway. Is NYU just barricading everything to not allow protests? Wow. That was a good video. I'm going to clip that one later. Let's go to the next one. Oh, you guys can't hear the sound. Hang on. Sound broke. Hang on. We're just watching some protest clips from earlier today.
Shame!
You've been warned. You've been warned. I'm telling you. It's fine. You're blocking the street. If you continue to block the street, you're going to get arrested as well. So you know where to go. She's not using it. She's not using it. Step out now, right? Use it now.
KKK, IOF, they're all the same. NYPD, KKK, IOF, they're all the same. I know all their chants. Jews, what does that sign say? This looks to be some Jews. Hang on. Jews worldwide condemn Israeli bloody brutality. Judaism condemns the state of Israel and its atrocities with a X over the Israeli flag, because Orthodox Jews, if people don't know, Orthodox Jews do not actually support Israel. So don't tell me this is anti-Semitic. There's literally Jews at the protest that are being treated very nicely, I promise you, because this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Like, they're not getting beat up.
1, 2, 3, 4. No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA. No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA.
No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA. No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA. Israel is a terrorist state, is what they're chanting.
No KKK, no fascist USA. No God. No KKK, no fascist USA. No God. No KKK, no fascist USA. No God. No KKK, no fascist USA. No cops. No KKK,
no cops.
USA. No ICE. No KKK, no fascist USA. No ICE. No KKK, no fascist USA.
Divestment, again, this is about divestment. Those are Democratic Socialists with the rose. So that's that clip. We're gonna move into a different thing. I'm gonna make a clip of that later. Okay, so this is from yesterday, and this is Columbia University faculty, and Jewish leaders condemning ICE. And I want to go back and I want to see what the Columbia University faculty had to say. You guys can't even see what I'm looking at. Guys, please make sure you mount the like button. We're watching some coverage of the protests and the ordered deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, because this is about to create a massive shitstorm. And so we're going to watch this developing right in front of us right now. This is from yesterday. Let's see what they had to say.
Community lost to the dictatorship. Universities cannot exist when students are persecuted, arrested, and disappeared for their political.
There's someone holding a sign that says "Jews say no to deportation." So again, these are Jewish people.
beliefs. They can't exist when administrators call the police onto campus to resolve deep differences and difficult tensions with guns and zip ties. Universities cannot exist when their leaders do not stand up for the basic values of teaching, learning, expression, research, inquiry, and debate. Our worst enemy at this moment is the idea that the terrible things that happen during authoritarian dictatorships elsewhere could somehow never happen here. But they can happen, and indeed, we must acknowledge that some of those things are already happening. The AAUP calls on our students, faculty, and staff to stand together and to defend one another, as well as the principles of academic freedom. But we must recognize that this grievous attack on our university community is also an attack on our city, on our country, and we therefore call on all people of good conscience to stand up for democracy, to stand up for due process, and to stand up for our most basic constitutional rights. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Mariana Hirsch, the William Peterfield Trent Professor Emerita of English and Comparative Literature and of the Institute for the Study of Sexuality and Gender at Columbia.
The Institute of Sexuality and Wait, Hirsch?
Thank you all for being here. Can you hear me?
Seriously.
There's a chill in the air, and it's not from the early March wind. It's the chill of fear and despair that is all too familiar.
Thank you, Richard, for the super chat. Carlin, thanks for the leadership on this. Please continue to educate us about what's really going on. I will do my best, Richard. As you know, we only use primary sources on this channel, so we don't take anyone's word for it. We go direct to the horse's mouth. We see what happened, and that's really the best we can do. And, you know, facts don't care about your feelings. It doesn't really matter if you agree with them or disagree with them, but a lot of people are lying right now about what's going on, and so it's important that we keep ourselves honest above all else.
Familiar to me. Since Mahmoud Khalil was detained on Saturday, it has brought back my most tormenting childhood memories. Since Mahmoud Khalil was detained on Saturday, it has brought back my most...
Yes, Fox News does have an agenda by labeling these anti-Semitic. Every conservative commentator, Charlie Kirk, has an agenda by labeling these anti-Semitic. Every conservative commentator labeling these anti-Semitic has an agenda. The Trump administration has an agenda, and that agenda starts and ends in Israel.
Tormenting childhood nightmares. I grew up as a child in communist Romania, the daughter of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, sure.
In the 1950s.
Death.
A knock at the door, the sound of a doorbell were never innocent occurrences. They recalled my parents' wartime stories of hiding, trying to evade deportation, hearing their neighbors being taken away. But for me as a child, they could mean that the Securitate, the security police, was coming for my parents. There was no schoolmate, teacher, or neighbor that could be trusted not to denounce us. And for what? Well, there was never a lack of a pretext to arrest enemies of the state, often a code word for Jews. But during all that frightening time, there was a word that offered hope of the possibility of living freely. And that word was America, or as my mother pronounced it, America. Surely a bit naive, but we came here believing in it, and a lot of me still does. I've spent my career, or a good part of my career, teaching about fascism and the memory of the Holocaust, so that what is happening now should never happen to anyone. I've spent the last year and a half working with a number of committed Jewish colleagues to preserve these basic freedoms on this campus. Freedom of expression, freedom to protest, freedom to speak out and to act against injustice. My committed Jewish faculty colleagues and I have warned that the false characterization of Colombia as a hotbed of anti-Semitism would be used as an alibi for what's actually at stake for the Republican establishment and now the Trump administration. Strict control of speech, of protest, and of higher education at large.
Yep.
It should be obvious to everyone that what's happening on this campus, or should I say to this campus, is not about protecting Jews. Sadly, the Colombia anti-Semitism narrative has been promoted and amplified by the Anti-Semitism Task Force and by this administration, and Colombia administration has conceded on every single point. Our group of Jewish faculty have argued vociferously for a clear distinction between an understanding of anti-Semitism as anti-Jewish hatred, which certainly exists, and the false narrative that criticism of Israel's brutal war on Gaza, a war that many experts agree is genocidal, can be equated with anti-Jewish sentiment. Student activism is not support of terrorism or of Hamas's violent attacks on October 7th. That's a shameful and deeply mischaracterizing conflation that is being repeated in the press. I'm glad you're here to hear me say this is not right. Pro-Palestinian speech and activism does not mean a lack of safety for Jews. And
it burns me to no end that the Trump administration is forcing me to side with the left, because in this case, on the free speech issue, the left is correct. In this case, on the issue of are these protests pro-Hamas and Jew-hating anti-Semitism, the left is correct that they're not. The right is lying. And it's like, that's what burns me worse than any of this, is the socialists and the communists are actually telling the truth in this regard. And if you look at the evidence, it is very, very clear.
Anywhere. The illegal detention and threatened deportation of a student who is a green card holder have made everyone here unsafe, as my colleagues have been saying. Undocumented international students and faculty on visas, green card holders, and who knows, even naturalized citizens like myself. Not to speak of minorities and women and Jews. The chill in the air now is the fear and despair we feel as Colombia is being made a test case for the detention of activists and with announced funding cuts for the decimation of higher education in the U.S. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Rabbi Jason Klein, the senior rabbi at Congregation Beit Simchat Torah.
Hi, I'm Jason Gary Klein, Columbia College class of 1997, and senior rabbi at CBST, a congregation that is serving people of all sexual orientations and gender identities.
Oh.
As a Columbia alumnus, I was shaken both by the news of $40 million of federal funds being withheld from Columbia by the Trump administration, and I was also shaken by President Armstrong's email over the weekend and the links that it contained, because they appeared to exploit anti-Semitism rather than actually have a cogent plan to combat it. And Mahmoud Khalili, I am mortified as an American, as a Jew, and as an alumnus of this institution that you have been taken into ICE custody, and I cannot even imagine what you and your family are going through right now.
Yep.
President Armstrong, I am concerned that you may not have done enough to protect Mahmoud Khalili and his family. This week's Torah portion, Ki Tisa, describes a vacuum in leadership that leads our ancestors to create an idol, One reason this section of the Torah is notable is because even Moses' brother Aaron, the de facto leader of the Jewish people in Moshe's place, takes no responsibility for the construction of the golden calf. Unfortunately, it's a very human thing to do, to shirk responsibility. Let's stop doing that. Let's not let each other off the hook for it. Today, we're calling out the outrageous absence of moral leadership coming from the highest offices in this country. I condemn the detention of Mahmoud Khalil and the withholding of federal funds from Colombia. They are not in Jewish safety. They are not in the interest, they are not in the interest of Jewish safety. They are a distraction from real acts of anti-Semitism, and they rely on weaponizing anti-Semitism. They rely on exploiting people's worst instincts to capitulate to tyranny.
They do, don't
Whether
they?
or not I or anyone agrees with a particular opinion of a fellow Colombia lion, whether or not I or anyone agrees with the opinion of a fellow Colombia lion, it would be a grave mistake for any of us as Jews to forget that liberties such as free speech and the right to due process have allowed us to thrive in this country as well. So if you agree with one of Mahmoud's opinions, we haven't actually been on a first-name basis, Mr. Khalili's opinions, you may be outraged. And if you disagree with Mahmoud Khalili, I suggest that this is a good time to be even more outraged, because what happened to Mahmoud can happen to anyone. So let us call on ICE for Mahmoud Khalili's release. Let us call on the release of federal funds to Colombia, and let us call on Alma Mater to fight on for victory evermore, the victory of intellectual honesty and the victory of American liberty. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Sonia Posmentier, who's Associate Professor of English at New York University, and she's here to represent the Sanctuary Campus Network.
Oh, the Sanctuary Campus Network. Okay, that doesn't sound socialist at all.
Hi, can you all hear me? Yeah. My name's Sonia Posmentier. I'm a faculty member downtown at New York University. I'm also a member of the Executive Council of NYU's chapter of AAUP. So I'm here in solidarity with my colleagues at Barnard and Columbia, and in solidarity with Mahmoud Khalil, to demand his release from ICE custody, and to call also on Barnard College to reinstate students who've been expelled for protesting the war on Gaza by Israel with arms from the U.S. I'm also here, as was said, as a member of the Sanctuary Campus Network, which is a new formation of college and university individuals from across the U.S. and Canada. There are currently over 1,000 people in that network, so I can't say that I'm representing all of them, but I'm here to say a little about the Sanctuary movement and the Sanctuary Campus movement. Sanctuary as a political practice and moral principle has deep religious and secular roots reaching back thousands of years. More recently, as many of you may know, in the 1980s, the new Sanctuary movement was one expression of transnational organizing to provide safety to refugees fleeing civil wars and genocide in Central America, and to end the U.S. backing of those wars. During the first Trump administration, in the wake of the Muslim ban, we took this movement up on college and university campuses with a focus on protecting undocumented students and immigrant students, and collaborating with immigrant rights coalitions in our communities. The National Sanctuary Campus Network came together this past December, because we know that all who are defined as outsiders to the MAGA state are targets. None of us is safe. Sanctuary on college campuses, the basic idea that it should be possible to study and teach and express political ideas freely without fear of unlawful detention or deportation is, believe it or not, a contested idea. When we first started organizing around Sanctuary at NYU many years ago, we were told we're already a Sanctuary campus, just in everything but the name. And then when we said, we'll take the name, they said, well, that might be making a promise we can't keep, which was a little closer to the truth. Now administrators all across the country are trying to adopt a stance of neutrality or civility, but their version of neutrality is far from it. It upholds the Palestine exception to speech and critical inquiry. It upholds the banning of trans people from public life. Caving to Trump directives on DEI, social justice, and climate justice is far from neutral. In fact, it's taking us backward, creating restrictions on what we can study and how we can collectively transform university spaces.
And this is the problem.
But let's be clear,
This is the problem. This is the problem. These are far left radical revolutionaries. There are plenty of good things to fight these people on. Trump could literally defund every university teaching gender studies and queer theory if he wanted to. Trump has already said he would defund universities that were pushing DEI. If they wanted to target these people in a way that was actually productive, they could. They're choosing, they are making the choice to go after them because they're critical of Israel. And that is the problem. And then we have to side with these people because it's a free speech issue, and Trump and all of his fucking minions are lying about what's going on. And then they still get to do their gender shit ultimately because they are going to win. And I hope everyone understands this. Like, the courts are absolutely going to side with these people. And then they get to keep doing all of their gender bullshit and all of their queer theory bullshit, which could have just been banned in the first place had the Trump administration actually focused on what was a legitimate problem instead of making shit up to suck up to Benjamin Netanyahu.
Universities cannot make themselves sanctuary to all students. It's that they will not, as Columbia University has shown us most dramatically by enabling the detention of Mahmoud Khalil this weekend. So while faculty and students continue to push our administrations, we've also been building sanctuary among ourselves, because it's not just something we demand, it's something we have to make. And because of how important we are to each other, I want to acknowledge that we're living in a time of great fear, and to take a minute to acknowledge the courage of Mahmoud Khalil and all our students who are protesting against genocide in the face of this fear. And to ask that those of us who are faculty and have power and privilege to do so stand with them and take on some of that risk with them. The poet June Jordan, Barnard alumna, identified this courage when she addressed Columbia students sitting outside the steps of Hamilton Hall, which they had renamed Mandela Hall, in 1985, protesting South African apartheid. She said to them, and that is what you, the students of Columbia, say to all Americans as you sustain this protest. Fear of reprisals stops here with my body. Tyrannical rule and tyrannical force stops here with my body. Reprisals may come, tyranny may continue, but tyrannical rule and tyrannical force will have to deal with me, with my body, with my open and speaking big mouth, as long as I am alive. And it's in this spirit that we organize across the U.S. and Canada now to demand to become sanctuary campuses. Sanctuary campus means the end of war and occupation of Palestine. It means no ICE on or around our campus. It means no threats of deportation against international students, faculty, and staff. Sanctuary campus means we can critically study systems of oppression, including racism, colonialism, heteropatriarchy, and transmisogyny. It means college should be free.
Said all the words.
Sanctuary campus means we try to build a free and just world by dismantling our campuses' complicity in war and oppression. And sanctuary campus means we keep us safe. Free Mahmoud Mahmoud Khalil.
Heteropatriarchy. Got the heteropatriarchy and the trans misogyny in there even.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jamie Beeren, Chief Executive Officer of Bend the Arc Jewish Action.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Beeren. I'm the CEO of Bend the Arc. We are the largest national Jewish organization that works exclusively on domestic policy. And we're a multiracial, multi-ethnic, intergenerational movement who is rising up for an American future in which all of us are free and thriving. A future free from white supremacy, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and racism. I'm also a graduate of the Columbia Business School and Institute for UJA Federation. I have a certificate from the Columbia Business School nonprofit program. And before I jump into my prepared remarks, I have some exciting news to share, which is that it is being reported that a judge has enjoined Mahmoud's removal until the court has the opportunity to consider the petition that's been filed on his behalf in federal court.
Yep.
And this is good news. And we still have to keep fighting, both to ensure...
Just so people understand this, if you haven't watched this type of content with me, so when socialists are organizing direct action or protests or stuff like this, part of what they organize that people don't often know about is they organize legal defense for people. So when socialists are organizing and doing direct action, there are people who volunteer to get arrested. They do training on how to get arrested. They will... This is why the left is not afraid of getting arrested. Like, the right likes to use this as an own, and it's like, they're out going to jail. Well, no, they're not, actually. No, they're not. And they know they're not because they organize legal defense and they all crowdfund it so that, like, you're not even having to pay for your lawyers or anything like that because the group will crowdfund the whole thing. And so the legal defense is set up at the very beginning. They have all the protection they need. They will fight you in court. They will win in court because you're being dickish in your behaviors, and they are actually legally right at the end of the day. And so this guy probably has a completely crowdfunded legal team, courtesy of the left. He's going to be fine. And then the Trump administration is going to lose in court, and it's going to be incredibly embarrassing. And it never had to happen in the first place because this is some bullshit.
Ensure that he is released and to protect free speech and oppose this broader mass deportation agenda. And I am here today because I know in my bones as an American Jew how dangerous it is when the government starts abducting legal residents that they disagree with. And I know how doubly dangerous it is when they are claiming to do that in the name of Jewish safety. If this administration truly cared about Jewish people or wanting to end anti-Semitism, it would be upholding our freedoms to speak, study, and stand up for what we believe in.
Wow. Yep. True.
Abducting Mahmoud Khalil and tearing him away from his family is an affront to freedom and safety for all of us, Jewish people very much included. This is a blatant example of how this administration uses anti-Semitism as a smokescreen to enact its plans to bully, blame, and ban people, plans that have nothing to do with Jews or our safety. At Bend the Arc, we have devoted much of our organizational time, resources, and power towards the work of ending anti-Semitism wherever it comes from. We do this because we understand how damaging anti-Semitism is for Jewish people, for this country, and for all of us. But let's be clear. Abducting Mahmoud does nothing to make Jews safer. In fact, it is just another way that the MAGA movement is using anti-Semitism to generate division and fear so that they can continue to grow their power and wealth for themselves and for their corporate cronies. All anti-Semitism is unacceptable. But this strategy, which we call smokescreen anti-Semitism, is particularly dangerous because it is used by people who have tremendous power. The same people...
Yeah, and I don't think I've said this, but let's also be clear about this. The Trump administration, in their actions, are going to send more people into the loving open arms of the radical revolutionary far left. They are going to use this to recruit. They're going to... See, we told you they were trying to censor our speech. See, we told you they were going to literally erase us. So all those disaffected Democrats now that are already pissed off at the Democratic Party, oh, they've got a reason to radicalize now that they didn't have a couple days ago.
People who are trying to get away with using Nazi salutes from their biggest platforms are claiming to care about Jewish people and our needs, all as a cover for their despotic plans to harm all of us, as cover for their mass deportation agenda, which the vast majority of American Jews oppose. Jewish people will not be used as an excuse to justify MAGA plans to tear families apart. We know where that kind of division ends up. We are going to call Trump's bluff. We demand that Mahmoud be released from custody and returned to his family immediately with his green card intact. And we know that the only way we can truly end anti-Semitism is by locking arms across religions, races, immigration status, and gender, and insisting that freedom and safety for all is truly for all of us, no exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming. We have one more speaker, Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg, the senior rabbi of Malchut, and we'll have a press availability afterwards.
Good evening. I'm Rabbi Rachel Goldenberg. I'm rabbi of Malchut, which is a congregation in Queens. But what really brings me here today as well is the fact that I am a fellow alumna of Columbia College of 1997. And my heart is broken. I and many in the Jewish community could not be more deeply troubled by the Trump administration's detention of Mahmoud Khalil without due process, as well as their cancellation of $400 million in grants and contracts to Columbia University, claiming as their reason the school's continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. This morning, reading about Mahmoud's detention and learning about his wife, that she's 8 months pregnant, I felt physically ill. I cannot imagine the fear and worry that he and his wife must be feeling right now, and I just want to take a moment to extend all of our prayers and care and support to him and to his whole family. These actions threaten democracy and the rule of law and endanger.
Could they have picked a worse person to go after? Could they have literally picked a worse person to go after? Because every video I've seen of this guy, he's not being inflammatory, he's being soft-spoken, he's being humble. He might be making demands that you don't like, and that's fine, but he's obviously not, this guy is not Antifa, okay? This guy is not a militant, violent person. He's been very even-keeled. This guy not only has a student visa, but also has a green card because he's married to an American and is like days away from having a baby. And this is the hardened terrorist that they chose as the first person to make that example of. Could they? I mean, maybe it would have been better if they had chosen a pregnant woman who was just there, like, you know, supporting someone who was at the I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, it just really, it's like the judgment of these people is so bizarre.
The entire system of higher education without making Jewish students any safer. Anti-Semitism is real. It exists in this country. It exists in all sorts of political movements. It even exists at Columbia. And it is also true that the majority of students who have taken part in the campus protests, including many Jewish students, did so peacefully.
True.
And because they wanted the war in Gaza to end. It did not come from a place of anti-Semitism.
True.
If the Trump administration was actually concerned about fighting anti-Semitism, they would not be halting the work of the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, which is the body charged with such investigations.
Let's not go that
Nor
far.
would they be platforming white nationalists or those who perform Nazi salutes. It breaks my heart as a Jew Jew who found my path to the rabbinate in large part due to my experience of rich and joyful Jewish life at Columbia, to witness how the Trump administration is targeting my alma mater and using the pretext of Jewish safety to move forward their xenophobic and authoritarian agendas. I am also angry and ashamed that the university has not stood up to these assaults on civil liberties and the rule of law. This week, the Jewish community marks the holiday of Purim. We celebrate the biblical story of how Queen Esther saved Persian Jews from destruction by the king's xenophobic minister, Haman. Queen Esther, herself a Jew, risks her life to reveal her identity, to speak up and protect her people. Today, the Trump administration is looking to a right-wing strategy that they have called by her name, Project Esther, which is an addendum to Project 2025, as they carry out these actions against Columbia University and Mahmoud Khalil. Project Esther weaponizes Jewish fear to drive a wedge between Jews and liberatory movements.
That means socialist.
Today, we here, standing here, invoke the true Queen Esther and stand up to the forces who would use our safety as a pretext to shut down legal, peaceful student protests, to detain an expectant father and green card holder, to suppress the movement for Palestinian liberation, and to destroy higher education. Today, we call for Mahmoud Khalil's immediate release. We call on Columbia to stand with us in drawing courage from Queen Esther's example, to resist fear, to resist intimidation, and to say no to collaborating with Trump's authoritarian agenda.
Thanks very much, everyone. That's the end of our planned speakers. If you want to stick around and spread out and speak to any folks, I can send them your way. But now is probably a good time to collect your microphones. Thanks.
Oh, that it? Okay. Well, that was enlightening to hear all of those very Jewish speakers talking about how this is ridiculous. Okay, that's all the live stream we have there. Let's go on. I want to watch this thing from Democracy Now! That's the protest from earlier. We can watch that another time. I want to watch this coverage from Democracy Now!, which I know isn't the protest coverage, but it's what leftists are watching. So I want to see how the left is actually covering this. And this will probably be the last thing we watch today. We've got Disenraged coming up at 9 p.m. tonight. So we can watch more protest stuff tomorrow. There'll probably be more video tomorrow anyway. If it makes sense, we can also watch something else. But let's watch this piece from Democracy Now! To see how the left is covering this.
Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. An emergency rally is being held in New York today after ICE agents detained a leader of the Gaza Solidarity encampment at Columbia University. Mahmoud Khalil is an Algerian citizen of Palestinian descent who's a green card holder and a lawful permanent resident of the United States. He's married to a U.S. citizen. His wife is 8 months pregnant. Immigration officials told Khalil's lawyer his green card is being revoked. Khalil recently graduated from Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs, CIPA. His whereabouts are unknown, though there are reports he might be in Louisiana. In a statement, his lawyer, Amy Greer, said, quote, ICE's arrest and detention of Mahmoud follows the U.S. government's open repression of student activism and political speech, specifically targeting students at Columbia University for criticism of Israel's assault on Gaza. The U.S. government has made clear they will use immigration enforcement as a tool to suppress that speech, unquote. Mahmoud Khalil was a key organizer of the Columbia encampment. This is Mahmoud speaking on campus in April.
This encampment is a minor inconvenience compared to the generational shaping events taking place now in Gaza. Throughout the negotiations, the Shafiq administration treated this movement as a matter of internal student discipline rather than a movement, or rather than as one of the great moral and political questions of this generation. Colombia's short-sighted political decision making today in the face of a genocide that has stolen the lives of over 34,000 human beings, women, men, babies in Gaza, that has destroyed lineages and heritage sites and universities, will be a stain on its legacy forever. The students on this encampment are a gift to Colombia. We offered to give university back its principles. With all eyes on Colombia, the administration could have chosen to divest in a manner that aligned with its past. Colombia would rather trample its reputation instead of being proud of its students and faculty for raising these incredibly important moral questions. We have been hit with little more than threats and petty attacks. This is not a matter of simply violating university rules. This is a movement, an anti-war movement. We have sparked similar Gaza solidarity encampments across the nation and even across the globe.
So that was Mahmoud Khalil speaking in April at the Gaza Solidarity Encampment at Columbia University. He was detained by ICE on Saturday. On Sunday night, Secretary of State Marco Rubio shared an article about Khalil and wrote on X, "We'll be revoking the visas and or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported."
Idiots.
Unquote. Khalil's arrest came as the Trump administration withdrew $400 million in federal grants and contracts to Columbia University for failing to stop, quote, anti-Semitic harassment at its campus. In fact, Columbia repeatedly targeted Palestinian rights protesters, many of them Jewish,
UAW,
and called in police to crack down on the peaceful student movement. We're joined now by two guests. Prem Thakur is political correspondent and columnist for Zeteo News. He's also a Columbia graduate. His most recent piece, DHS detains Palestinian students from Columbia encampment, advocates say. We're also joined by Joseph Howley, an associate professor of classics at Columbia University. Professor Howley, let's begin with you. Can you explain what happened to Mahmoud Khalil on Saturday? Where was he? How was he taken? And how is it possible he was taken, given that he has a green card?
Well, there's a lot of questions in there we don't know the answers to, and everything I know about what happened to Mahmoud comes from his lawyer and his family, because we've still received no communication from the university. Our understanding is that he and his wife...
Like, there is a process to canceling someone's green card. I know this because I happen to be married to a green card holder. They can't... I promise you what happened is they thought he was only here on a student visa because they didn't bother to look into it, and they probably found out he was a green card holder when they showed up to arrest him and he was like, "I'm a green card holder." There, like, you can't just unilaterally cancel someone's green card. It has to go through the courts. There is a process to challenge it. And I promise you, he's going to win in the courts because the Trump administration has said, literally, we saw the quote earlier, the Trump administration has literally said, we are not accusing him of committing a crime. They offered that in the media. The only reason that he can really get his green card canceled is if he actually committed a crime. The Trump administration has already said, we are not alleging that he has committed a crime. So the Trump administration is going to lose in court. That guy's going to keep his green card, and it's going to set off a whole summer of love shit show for literally no reason.
Wife, who's a U.S. citizen, who's 8 months pregnant, were returning home here in the neighborhood, and that plainclothes DHS agents forced their way into their home behind them, told Mahmoud that his student visa had been revoked when it was explained that he had a green card.
Yeah. Mac B, thanks for the super chat. This is an example of the right pushing us off a cliff while the left is dragging us off a cliff. Yeah, exactly. We're going off the cliff either way. Hey, Mac B, I was sorry to miss movie night last night. I got into doing something else and I just spaced and I looked up and it was like 11 o'clock and I was like, oh shit, I missed movie night, didn't I? I'm going to watch part 1 on my own though, and I'm coming next week. So I apologize for that. That was my bad.
Card. They seemed confused, got on the phone with someone, declared that the green card had also been revoked. Mahmoud's lawyer got on the phone with them, demanded to see the warrant, and they hung up and they took him off. And no one was able to find him, I think for at least 24 hours.
And can you talk about what people's response is right now? Staff, students around Columbia, how people are organizing?
Well, this is something that I think is very frightening for a lot of members of our community. I have colleagues and students, messaging me since yesterday, asking about whether it's safe to be on campus, asking about canceling classes or taking classes remote because they don't know how safe it is to be on or around campus with ICE agents prowling the neighborhood. And, we have a lot of members of our community who are on student visas. We have a lot of members of our community who are permanent residents. And so I think people are wondering now, how is it safe to be here on campus?
And can you talk about the atmosphere on campus?
Well, campus has been under a security lockdown since last April, since before the first Gaza Solidarity encampment went up. So walking into campus this morning, things were very quiet, but they're always very quiet now. They've been quiet for months and months. It feels like we're under, a heavy security regimen.
What are you calling for? And can you talk about your criticism of the Columbia campus around the issue of the pro-Palestinian protests that took place all last year, how Columbia dealt with it? Ultimately, you have the president, Mahmoud Shafiq, leaving. The president had called in police over and over again.
Sure. Look, for the last year, a number of my colleagues and I have been trying to make the point to university leadership, to our colleagues, that these attacks on the Palestine Solidarity Movement as somehow inherently anti-Semitic, or the idea that the presence of the Solidarity Movement poses a threat to all Jewish students on campus, are very dangerous lies and bad faith attacks on higher education that we really should be engaging with as threats rather than as sincere complaints. So we wrote a letter to former President Shafiq,
that is okay.
Last spring.
They right now they have the demands of the protesters up on the screen, so you can see very clearly what those demands are. Divest all finances, including the endowment, from corporations that profit from Israel apartheid, genocide, and occupation in Palestine. Complete transparency for all Columbia's financial investments. They want to see how much money they're spending in Israel. Amnesty for all students and faculty disciplined or fired for Palestinian liberation. Those are their demands. These are not anti-Semitic demands. These are not pro-Hamas demands. Nothing says kill all the Jews. What they are protesting for is divestment from Israel. That's what they've always been protesting for.
That we published. We've written a few other letters and statements since then. And the point is really this. We know that the political right in this country hates higher education and wants to destroy it or remake it in its own image. We've seen this in the public education system in places like Florida and North Carolina. And it's been very clear to anyone who's watching since last spring that this issue is being used as a wedge. But now what we can see is that everyone who spent the year pointing to anyone with a keffiyeh and yelling Hamas, pointing to anyone with a Palestinian flag and calling them a terrorist, everyone who spent the last year going on the public record and saying that Columbia has some sort of uniform, cultural, widespread problem with anti-Semitism, has been, loading the gun for the Trump administration to do what they always wanted to do, which is cripple major institutions of learning in this country.
Professor Hawley, Professor Hawley, if you could talk about the criticism that what's going on campus is anti-Semitic. In fact, are you yourself Jewish?
I am Jewish, and, I don't really like playing that card, but it's become very important for those of us who are Jewish and do not subscribe to the idea that the presence of this protest movement is anti-Semitic, to stand up and say so. But look, we do have problems with, harassment and bias towards Jewish students. We have problems with harassment and bias towards Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian students. Every time Israel goes on a new killing spree in the occupied Palestinian territories, anti-Semitism surges around the world. Every time, Hamas kills hundreds of people, we have to deal with attacks on Muslims and Arabs. We have a widespread climate problem here because this is an international campus. But, using the ADL's playbook under the guise of protecting Jewish students to suppress the protest movement has not been making anyone safer.
Can you talk about what has happened now and if you believe other students have been taken by ICE?
We don't have a lot of information about this. My understanding is that on Friday, not long after the federal government announced the funding freeze, that ICE agents tried to gain access to another student residence. We don't know yet, or I don't know yet if anyone else has been detained at this point. But, I've been hearing from students in the last 24 hours that there are rumors or reports of more ICE activity in the neighborhood today. And we haven't gotten anything from the university administration about any of this, except to say that Columbia follows the law.
And your response to this happening at the same time, your university, Columbia, now the federal government is cutting off $400 million to the university. We just had a segment on the attack on science. We're talking about across the board in Columbia, right? Basic scientific research and beyond.
Yeah, it's going to be devastating. I mean, it's, experiments are going to languish. People are going to lose their jobs. Labs are going to get shut down. And of course, it's not just about the war on science. It's about the war on higher education. But I think the crucial thing to pay attention to here is that the cover that the White House is using for this is this claim that Columbia has done nothing to address this rampant climate of anti-Semitism. I've already told you I would dispute that characterization of the climate on campus, but it's also clear that the university has done a great deal about this. We have, a large new Office of Inclusion and Equity that's been investigating every conceivable complaint of anti-Semitism, including some that seem really kind of spurious or excessive. I think it's outrageous that we should be taking lectures from a White House on anti-Semitism, a White House that's probably the most anti-Semitic administration in American history. And I think it's preposterous that we as an institution should try to bargain or engage in good faith on the question of anti-Semitism with neo-Nazis and segregationists and great replacement theorists. Like, I'm old enough to remember when Donald Trump supporters marched through the campus of the University of Virginia chanting, "Jews will not replace us." I'm old enough to remember when the Republican Party's xenophobic propaganda about migrants convinced someone to shoot up the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh. This is not a political movement that cares about keeping Jews or anyone else safe. This is a political movement that is willing to instrumentalize the fear and confusion of Jews to crush any kind of dissent in this country and to break higher education.
Can you also talk about Columbia and Barnard expelling student protesters? The Nation magazine recently noted, according to the group Columbia University Apartheid Divest, the last expulsion for nonviolent political protest at the school was in 1936 when Robert Burke was expelled.
Wow. So Columbia hadn't expelled people for political protests in in 90 years. Wow. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. I feel this will contribute to Trump and Republicans losing the midterms and swinging the pendulum hard in the other direction. Of course it will. Like always, Republicans snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Yep.
For rallying against Columbia's ties to Nazism.
Yeah, so Barnard had recently expelled 2 students only a couple of weeks after they allegedly participated in a classroom disruption here on Columbia's campus. And I think it's pretty clear to everyone that expulsion is an incredibly drastic response to any kind of infraction here, especially one that amounts to, a speech violation. My colleagues at Barnard tell me this expulsion was done without anything like due process, that the disciplinary process and oversight by faculty over there is really in shambles. I think the important thing to remember here is that these are institutions of learning. And when we expel students summarily, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to help them learn. So I don't know what anyone thinks expelling students is going to achieve except appeasing the right-wingers in D.C. But I think we can see that there's actually no amount of discipline or suppression that will appease them, because they don't really care about anti-Semitism or keeping Jews safe.
So, okay, I just want to emphasize basically what's going on. So, obviously, the Columbia and the Barnard students have been protesting regularly. I haven't been covering it because it's been the same old thing all year, but they have been protesting regularly. Last week, they decided to, like Barnard, decided to expel students for protesting at Columbia, okay? And so, basically, what this guy is saying is the reason that Barnard decided to expel students was essentially to appease the Trump administration. But now that the Trump administration is arresting students, this is a signal to the universities that there's just nothing that they can do. There's nothing they can do to appease the administration, because they're still going to come onto campus and arrest students and then take away $400 million of funding. And so now the Trump administration's actions have actively disincentivized the university to continue to go after students to stop the protests or to take disciplinary actions, because they've literally shown that nothing they do will matter anyway. And so now this information is going to be articulated to the faculty. This information is going to be articulated to the students. It's going to make them double down on everything. Do you guys see how this works?
All they care about is crushing dissent.
And do you think this is just about the pro-Palestinian protests? I mean, as we move forward, the message being sent around protests on campus, Professor?
Yeah, look, this is, I mean, you remember what the backlash was like after the uprising in 2020, after the killing of George Floyd, right? This is in part about whether we're going to be allowed to have mass protest movements in this country, whether we're going to be allowed to have youth protest movements and student protest movements. And my colleagues and I have been saying for a year now that one reason we need to stand up better to bad faith lies about the Palestine solidarity movement is that this is about establishing a precedent for imposing speech codes on higher education and on American society generally. So right now it's Palestine. Next, it's going to be race or gender or trans rights or climate.
We're also joined, in addition to Professor Joseph Hawley, by Prem Tucker. He is a political correspondent, columnist for Zateo News. You've been reporting extensively on the ICE raid on the home of this former Columbia graduate student. Talk more about what you know, how they're justifying the green card holder having his green card revoked, and now his 8-month pregnant wife is not able to find out where he is.
Stony baloney. I am 100% in favor of no communist speech. I'm 100% in favor of of deporting them for being communists, of taking their funding away for being communists. I am 1,000,000,000% in favor of that. Sadly, that's not what the Trump administration did. And we know they could have. This is the other part that pisses me off. It's not as though the Trump administration couldn't do that. They could do that. They made the choice to not do that. Instead, they made an egregious, unforced error that's going to result in another massive uprising.
Let alone anyone else, including his lawyer.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Professor. Yes, I think one thing that's really worth underscoring here is just how clumsy and haphazard this attempt by the administration has been to detain Mahmoud and to subsequently revoke his green card. First of all, as the professor said, these agents forced themselves into this apartment building, did not necessarily apparently introduce themselves, demanded to see their identification, Mahmoud and his wife, and they first chose to tell him that they were revoking his visa, that the State Department was revoking his visa. Upon them being told that, in fact, Mahmoud had a green card, they were on the phone. They said, oh, actually, the green card's revoked as well. And so that was the basis for the consequent or subsequent way in which this has been seen, which is that the administration has been very lackluster in their explanation for how this is justifiable at all. First, the shadowy arrest and detention at all, the fact that it's unclear where Mahmoud is right now. I can sort of break some potential possible news right now that it seems, based on internal ICE detaining tracking, that Mahmoud appears to be in Louisiana, as was feared. That is not confirmed, but that is what we are seeing from the ICE detention tracker, which can sometimes be delayed or lagged. But that is something to keep in mind, that Mahmoud, who was detained in New York City, is 36 hours later already possibly in Louisiana. So there's that aspect, the shadowy aspect of this. There's also the aspect that the administration doesn't seem to know exactly how to justify this very haphazard unilateral move, and is trying to appeal to simply President Trump's executive orders rather than things like the Constitution or case law or legal precedent. You have Marco Rubio, as mentioned, saying that they will be revoking not just visa cards, but also and/or green cards, which is very much beyond his sort of stated authority, his jurisdiction.
It is,
There's
actually. Yeah, it is.
There's one individual law that gives him wide authority to do so, but this would require Marco Rubio personally interfering on foreign policy grounds to justify such a deportation. And so I think you're going to see a lot of not just moral pushback, but legal pushback against something that is just so haphazard, so reckless, and so unjustifiable in so many different ways.
And what do you understand about the university, Columbia University? How much are they, or are they resisting this pressure from the administration, or even the arrest of Mahmoud?
So we had asked the university pretty early on about, sort of their awareness of ICE and DHS activity on campus during and before this detention, if they had shared any student information or campus affiliate information with authorities, and they chose not to answer those questions. They directed us to this broader statement regarding guidance that they had sort of coincidentally issued to campus affiliates just before this had happened about what affiliates should do if they see ICE or DHS activity on campus. So beyond the sort of suspect or interesting timing, what's interesting is that in this guidance, it sort of contrasts as to how the university sort of operated in 2016 during Trump's first term, while the school was led by First Amendment scholar and Columbia President Lee Bollinger, in which they were much more firm in saying that they wouldn't allow immigration authorities to be on campus without a warrant, that they wouldn't share information with authorities unless they were ordered by a court or subpoenaed. Whereas in this new guidance, they sort of have this more open tolerance or idea to the idea that DHS or ICE agents might need to access buildings even without a warrant, and that campus affiliates, quote, should not interfere if that's the case under sort of exigent circumstances, as the school calls them. And so there's already this sort of shifting in rhetoric from Trump in his first term to Trump in his second term from the Columbia's point of view. And you can see that manifesting in what we've seen this weekend. And as the professor has said, with reports of more ICE and DHS presence even up to today.
And Prem Tucker, the forcing out of the law professor, Catherine Franke, we just have 30 seconds. This also coming within this period. She was a law professor for almost a quarter of a century at Columbia.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe the firing of Professor Catherine Franke, you can see more about that in our Zateo town hall today with her, actually. She is amongst an array of sort of victims, people caught up in the crossfire of being targeted, as Professor Hawley said, for this right-wing attack on academic freedom, on institutions, on free speech, on the ability for professors to advocate for their students to express their own free speech rights, to speak out against war, to speak out on behalf of Palestinians. And this is only a sort of broader sort of warning sign of what's to come if there is not an organized, coherent opposition to
We're
this.
going to have to leave it there. Prem Tucker, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Political correspondent, columnist for Zateo. We'll link to your articles.
That
And
was the Democracy Now! Coverage, which is literally exactly what I said the Democracy Now! Coverage would be. Again, guys, it is mind-boggling to me how this has been blundered, and I think we're just starting to see the beginning of this. I think you're going to start to see another massive nationwide blow up. I think we're going to start to see a lot more militant protesting because they've already got a year under their belt at this point. Now they really are organized. And this is their opportunity to make a big, giant shit show out of everything. And Trump has given them the ability to do it. So this is obviously something we're going to have to keep covering and have to keep paying attention to. In the meantime, the very best thing that you can do is to head over to my Substack, which is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com, and sign up for email updates. I will be posting information over there as I get it in, not only about the protests, but about a variety of topics about the left. I just got wind of a spy stream for tomorrow evening. And I'm not going to say what that spy stream is, but let's just say I can tell you that that it has to do with fighting fascism and building socialism. So we will be doing a spy stream tomorrow. It looks around 7 p.m. Eastern time. The way you can get invited to spy stream, which is when we go inside a live leftist organizing call and we stream it, is by heading over to the Substack and signing up as a supporter for $8 a month or $80 a year. You can also become a supporter on Locals, Patreon, Twitter subscriber, YouTube channel member. I will be sending out the spy stream information to everyone supporting on any one of those platforms, and you can come and join us and watch the leftist organizing call tomorrow evening around 7 p.m. We will be doing that as a group. I'll be posting information over there. And if you want to check out some of the books I'm working on, head over to my other Substack, the Red Menace Collective. This is a premium Substack where you get access to my books and the chapters that I'm writing before they actually become a book. You can download your free copy of the Debunking the Communist Manifesto book that will come out on Friday, allegedly, if Amazon does its job. And you can currently read my chapters that I'm working on for Be Gay, Do Crime, The True Story of the Mary Nardini Gang, and that is a really interesting project that's coming along. I've got some other fun stuff about that planned. This is a premium Substack that is separate from my main Substack. This is $10 a month, $100 a year, and you fund my ability to write these books and create this content for all of you. And now I will take my reprieve. Later on in about 2 hours at 9 p.m. tonight, we'll be having Disenrage. Jennifer and I are going to be talking about lizard people. We're going to be doing an episode on lizard people. And I'm actually really excited about that because I don't know that much about the lizard people, but we're going to be talking about it at 9 p.m. tonight. All right, guys, I'm going to go take a little break. I will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? 3 months, May 17th. And what brought you here? That's difficult to answer. I'm not completely like other people. Do you know that? I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.